Good morning. I'm here with two reviews today. First, I have a review of The Last Girlfriend on Earth and Other Stories by Simon Rich, and I also have a review of The Illusion of Separateness by Simon Van Booy. Two Simons and two short story writers, so this should be an interesting review. So first up, The Last Girlfriend on Earth and Other Love Stories. This can be a little bit misleading. This sounds like a very sweet book, and at times it is quite sweet and sentimental, but on the whole, it's quite a satirical book. It is quite a tongue-in-cheek book. It is quite sarcastic, and it fit my personality perfectly. I really loved it. Simon Rich was originally a writer for Saturday Night Live here in the US, and so for that, you have to have a very kind of satirical sensibility about you. And now he works for Pixar Entertainment in the film industry. So, yeah, it really came through in this book that he is a hip guy. He's got a great tongue-in-cheek sense of humor. So don't let the love stories in this title kind of mislead you. Take the love story part with a grain of salt. So just for example's sake, I mentioned in my previous video, my June recap, that there's a story about a condom in this book. And it is a great story. But just to give you an example of some others, there was one called Occupy Jen's Street. And it is about a young man who's in college, and he feels like he has gone out of his way to impress and win over a girl named Jen. And so in the spirit of Occupy Wall Street, he starts to campaign for Jen to go out with him, and he occupies the front stoop of her building, and pretty soon people are joining his cause and living on the street outside of Jen's building. So yeah, he literally occupies Jen's street to try to get a result, to try to get her attention, to try to get what he's due, essentially. And I won't tell you if it works out for him or not, but it was a very entertaining story. There's also another one that was really, really funny. It was about a girl who grows up in this sort of manor house, and in the tradition of like English pastoral stories, she has an imaginary friend, and her imaginary friend is a goat in a tutu. And it's a male goat in a tutu, because when you have imaginary friends, they can be whoever you want them to be. But as the story moves along, the goat thinks that he's in love with the girl, and he thinks that it's not just a platonic relationship. And she turns him down, of course, because he's a goat. But it's just really funny. You know, it makes light of the problems that arise in relationships and kind of turns those up to a ridiculous level. So this was hands down one of the funniest books I've read this year, one of the smartest, really clever, laugh out loud funny books that I've read, maybe ever. So it's not gotten a lot of attention. I think that's a shame. I hope that you'll take the time to read it. It is quite short. It's a very quick read. It weighs in at about 200 pages, but each of the stories is about 3 to 5 pages long, and this is smaller than a typical trade paperback size book. So someone had mentioned on my blog that that could get tedious over a long period of time. But really, it's quite a short book. It's quite a small book in stature, and I didn't get tired of the format at all. So I hope you'll give it a try. Simon Van Booy is also another really undersung, underappreciated author. Now, he has quite a cult following in the blogosphere. I first learned of his work several years ago, probably 2006 or so. He had written a book of short stories called The Secret Lives of People in Love, and at that time it had been picked up by a small independent publisher called Turtle Point Press, and we received a copy of that book for review at a website that I ran at the time. It was a version of my blog called Estella's Revenge E-Zine, and we had lots of book reviews and things like that from various people, and this was one, or I'm sorry, not this one, The Secret Lives of People in Love was one that got picked up and reviewed. And from that point, I fell in love with Simon Van Booy's work. And fortunately, he is an author of great abilities and great ideas, and he got picked up by a major publisher, and in this case, Harper. And so, yeah, he's been kind of in the mainstream ever since. And he has 2 books of short stories. He has 1 full-length novel, and then he has this new book, which is marketed as a novel, but is really a collection of vignettes. And so we learn about a variety of characters. We learn about a soldier from Germany in World War II, and we learn about a soldier from America in World War II, and they have kind of a showdown in France. And this run-in that they have with one another really affects them for the rest of their lives. And it affects their decisions, and it affects their choices, and as a result, it affects the lives of other people. It affects their children and their grandchildren, and it all kind of comes full circle, and it's so clever. Simon Van Booy writes beautifully. I can't even tell you. I'll have to read a small passage from this just to give you an idea. But yeah, I mean, it's just unbelievable. He's really good. And I'm hoping that this will be the most commercially accepted book that he's written thus far, because a lot of people have a bias about short stories. They think they're not for them, they feel incomplete, but this is just gorgeous because it fits his ability and his talent for writing short stories, but it also appeals to that larger audience because they all tie together, and you do have a very full and complete sense that this is one cohesive work. And so I really hope that this book does well. Okay, so just to give you an example of his writing, this is just a page that I marked that I thought was beautifully done, and I'll read you a little bit. The air smells of wood smoke and seawater. The Golden Pear Cafe fills up early with retired bankers and once famous artists who sit alone by the window turning the pages of morning. Most people remember the Hamptons as an unbroken summer, a place of sandwiches and laughter, hot weather, things lost on the beach. In summer, I sleep with my windows open. Night holds my body in its mouth. In this second darkness, my desire flings itself upon a world of closed eyes. Then dreams break against the rocks of morning. Right? It's a very sensory experience reading Simon Van Booy's writing, and that is the case for his short stories and his novels. So if you haven't already tried him, I really hope that you will give The Illusion of Separateness a try. It really beautifully illustrates how we are all very much tied together and intertwined in one another's lives, even though it may not be readily apparent that that is the case. So yeah, The Last Girlfriend on Earth by Simon Rich, very funny short stories. The Illusion of Separateness by Simon Van Booy, sort of short story-like, but very cohesive and quite beautiful. So I hope that you'll pick up one of these books, and I hope that you love them as much as I did. Have a great day, guys.